Chris Rock's story is not just heartbreaking, it's a tragic reflection of a much larger, suffocating reality that haunts those who find themselves thrust into the blinding light of fame. Behind every joke, every laugh, every accolade, lies a man grappling with a weight so crushing that it threatens to crush the very essence of who he is. Fame, for Chris Rock, has never been the reward many assume it is. For him, it's been a relentless, emotional avalanche that has left scars on his soul. Scars that the world has witnessed in vivid, often painful detail. At first glance, Chris Rock seems like the epitome of success. A man who carved out a career with razor-sharp wit, humor that stung with truth, and a presence that electrified audiences everywhere. But what the world doesn't see, the raw, hidden undercurrent, is the emotional and psychological devastation that comes with bearing the weight of public scrutiny. Fame has always demanded something from Chris Rock, but what it's taken from him is nothing short of tragic. For someone who has always exposed his rawest self on stage, making millions laugh at the depths of his pain, Chris Rock has paid an excruciating price. His vulnerability, which he wielded as both weapon and shield, is a double-edged sword. The very thing that made him a beloved figure, his willingness to be open about his own flaws, his insecurities, his failures, has also exposed him to a level of public judgment that no one could ever truly prepare for. And this is where the heartbreak lies. For all his humor, for all the laughs he's given us, he's been forced to endure the darkest parts of himself on display, too. Rock's life has been a constant balancing act between the man he shows the world and the man he must hide behind closed doors. To millions, he's a comedic genius, a fearless truth-teller. But beneath that exterior lies a man who has endured more than most could ever imagine. His divorce from Malak Compton Rock in 2016 shattered his sense of family, and with it, a piece of his soul. What the public saw was the professional comedian trying to carry on as usual, yet behind the laughter, there was a heartbreak so deep it's unimaginable to those who don't feel it firsthand. His world was torn apart, and no amount of fame or fortune could mend it. The cruelest aspect of his career isn't just the personal cost. It's the way that personal pain has been commodified for the entertainment of others. Rock's divorce wasn't just a private affair. It became another talking point for late-night hosts, tabloids, and gossip mongers. His heartbreak became the punchline. It's a bitter irony. The man who's built an empire off of exposing uncomfortable truths about race, society, and the human condition is the one who is left with his heart exposed for the world to judge. The tragedy is that his pain has never been enough to make the world pause and consider the toll that fame takes. And then, in 2022, came the Oscars slap, an event that rocked the very core of his career and his personal life in ways that no one could have predicted. That single moment, a slap on the world's grandest stage, wasn't just a shocking, violent interruption of a live broadcast. It was the culmination of years of emotional and psychological burden, all unleashed in an instant. Will Smith, someone Rock had long considered a friend, publicly humiliated him in front of millions. But the slap was more than just physical violence. It was a symbol of the years of Rock's internalized pain, frustration, and confusion. The world watched in shock as Rock, seemingly unfazed, continued with the show. But beneath the surface, something much darker was unfolding. The emotional impact was not immediate, not in the way the slap had been seen in the headlines. Instead, it gnawed at Rock from within. His dignity, his sense of self-worth, shattered in front of the eyes of an unforgiving world. That moment at the Oscars was devastating, not just because of the slap, but because it symbolized everything that had been eating away at him for years. His vulnerability, his inability to protect his dignity, his struggle with his place in the industry. It was the ultimate betrayal, one that left him broken and questioning the very fabric of his identity. For months after, Rock tried to move forward, using his comedy as both a shield and a weapon to work through the pain. But the heartbreak was palpable. Every joke, every comment, every special that followed seemed tinged with a sorrow that couldn't be masked. In interviews, Rock would speak of the psychological toll the slap had taken on him, the way it made him reevaluate his career, his relationships, and even his sense of self. He was no longer just a comedian. He was a man raw with emotional wounds, struggling to heal in a public arena that demanded perfection and humor above all else.
And as he navigates his 60s, the tragedy of Chris Rock's life becomes even more profound. At this stage in his life, when many would expect him to feel a sense of peace or fulfillment, Rock is instead left with the heartbreaking reality that fame has never brought him the one thing he truly craves: emotional peace. The pain of his past, both personal and professional, continues to haunt him, and there are no easy answers or resolutions. His career has been marked by incredible highs, hitting the heights of success, dominating the comedy scene, and captivating audiences. Yet, each of these successes has come at a greater emotional cost. The tragedy of Chris Rock is that, for all the laughter he has given to the world, it is the silence between the laughs that tells the truest, most heartbreaking story. What is even more tragic is that, despite everything Chris Rock has accomplished, he remains a man profoundly wounded by the crushing weight of societal expectations, the betrayals that have punctuated his journey, and the unrelenting cycle of self-doubt and scrutiny that comes with living in the public eye. Throughout his career, Rock has been praised for his brilliant comedy, his candid social commentary, and his ability to speak uncomfortable truths with humor that resonates deeply with audiences. Yet, the tragedy lies in the fact that, despite all these outward successes, he has been unable to escape the internal wounds that fame has inflicted on him. The expectations placed on celebrities, especially someone as visible and vocal as Chris Rock, are nothing short of suffocating. As one of the most recognizable faces in comedy, Rock has always been expected to deliver, not just jokes, but a performance that mirrors his public persona: confident, sharp-witted, and never faltering. But beneath the laughter and the applause, Chris Rock is, at his core, a human being, a man who, despite his immense talent, has had to navigate the complexities of life in a world that never stops demanding more from him. The tragic irony is that in being thrust into the spotlight, he has been forced to give up parts of himself in ways that have left him broken, unable to fully reconcile who he is in private versus the image he must project to the world. The constant pressure of these expectations has chipped away at Rock's sense of self. Fame, as most people can imagine, is not a constant stream of triumphs and happiness. It's a constant balancing act between personal fulfillment and public perception. For someone like Chris Rock, whose career has been built on raw, unfiltered honesty, that act is especially difficult to maintain. Every moment of his life, every joke, every appearance, every personal decision has been subject to public scrutiny. In doing so, the world has demanded that Rock be something more than just a man. He has been expected to be a source of endless entertainment, a cultural touchstone, and an emblem of wit and wisdom. But behind the image, there lies a man who has been forced to give up his privacy, his peace, and, in many ways, his personal joy. This sense of pressure is compounded by the betrayals Rock has faced over the years, betrayals both personal and professional, that have added layers of emotional complexity to his story. The most glaring example of this, of course, is the high-profile collapse of his marriage to Malak Compton Rock. The dissolution of their 20-year marriage was not just a personal heartbreak. It was a public spectacle. Rock has spoken openly about the pain he felt in the aftermath, about how the breakup forced him to confront not just his personal flaws but also the ways in which his career and fame had strained his relationships. The tragedy of this betrayal was not just the loss of his partner, but the erosion of the trust and emotional safety that comes with having someone in your corner. For Rock, whose career had so often been a source of pride, this failure was deeply humbling, and yet it was one that the public eagerly devoured, scrutinizing the details of his private life in ways that only deepened his pain. But the betrayals don't stop there. Throughout his career, Rock has faced countless moments of professional betrayal and disillusionment, whether it's being overlooked for roles, misjudged by critics, or unfairly pigeonholed by Hollywood. The entertainment industry is a brutal one, And for someone like Rock, who has always pushed boundaries with his comedy, the price of that boundary pushing has often been rejection or criticism. As much as he has triumphed, there have been moments when the industry has failed to recognize his true potential, leaving him to grapple with the feeling of being an outsider in an industry that often rewards conformity over originality. These professional betrayals add another layer of bitterness to Rock's journey, a reminder that even success in Hollywood comes with compromises, disappointments, and a sense of being perpetually undervalued. The endless cycle of self-doubt that Chris Rock has faced is another heartbreaking aspect of his story. Even as he reached the heights of fame and success, Rock has consistently questioned his worth, his place in the world, and whether he truly deserves the accolades that have come his way. This self-doubt has been a constant companion throughout his career. It is often difficult for the public to understand that someone who appears so confident on stage might struggle with profound insecurity in their personal life. For Rock, the act of being funny has often been an armor, a way to shield himself from the vulnerability that lies beneath. But the more he exposes himself to the world, the more vulnerable he becomes, and the more that vulnerability is preyed upon. It's easy to assume that someone like Chris Rock, with all his achievements and accolades, would have a clear sense of self and a secure place in the world. But the reality is far from that. The constant need to prove himself, the never-ending expectation to outdo his previous performances, and the comparison to other comedians have all compounded his inner turmoil. Even when he does succeed, the success is often fleeting. The applause, the cheers, the standing ovations, they come and go, leaving Rock with the same sense of emptiness that plagued him before. The more he tries to fill that emptiness with success, the more it grows, until he is left staring into the abyss of his own self-doubt. In many ways, Chris Rock is still searching for something he can never fully find: peace with himself. It's a peace that fame and success can never provide, a peace that is only found when one is able to let go of external validation and truly accept themselves for who they are. Yet, for Rock, this peace remains elusive. The demands of the public eye have made it nearly impossible for him to live a life free from external judgment. He is trapped in a cycle of needing to please others, needing to meet their expectations, while simultaneously wrestling with the gnawing sense that he is never enough. And this is the most heartbreaking part of it all. Despite his remarkable career and the millions of people who adore him, Chris Rock has been forced to live in a world that sees him as a public figure, first, and a human being, second. The emotional burden that Chris Rock carries is not just the weight of his career, it's the weight of a lifetime spent searching for something more, something deeper, something that might offer him the inner peace he has longed for. Yet, every time he approaches that peace, it slips through his fingers. He is still searching for acceptance in a world that is constantly moving, constantly changing, and never satisfied. And this pursuit of acceptance is one of the most tragic aspects of his journey. Rock is a man who has given everything to his art, to his audience, to his legacy. But what he has not been able to give himself is the freedom to simply be a man. Not a public figure, not a cultural icon, not a laughingstock, but just a man, struggling with the same human flaws and insecurities that we all carry. At the pinnacle of his career, there should be rest, a sense of accomplishment, and the ability to enjoy the fruits of his labor. But for Chris Rock, there is no rest. There is only the relentless drive to push forward, to give more, to prove something, not to the world, but to himself. And as he continues down this path, the heartbreaking reality is that what he seeks, peace, acceptance, and the freedom to be himself, remains just out of reach, hidden behind the very fame and success that were supposed to set him free. The story of Chris Rock, at 60, is a tragedy not because he has failed, but because for all his accomplishments, he remains profoundly, heartbreakingly lost. And it's not just the public slap that haunts him. It's the weight of a lifetime spent searching for something no amount of fame or applause can ever truly give: inner peace. And that, in itself, is the most heartbreaking part of all.